So let's kick off then over to Matthew Davidson then, who is heading the project, to give a bit of introduction then into what is the Oxford International Curriculum. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everyone. So, what is the Oxford International Curriculum? Before I answer this, thank you very much for attending this webinar during such troubling times. While these days the world is changing faster than ever before, we should also look at the positives too. Every day technology shows us its power to help all walks of life. We find new ways to work together, and we evolve as a world. In this space, education too must evolve. And that was the goal in creating a new Oxford International Curriculum. We wanted to create a curriculum that supports people to not only be prepared for a fast-changing future, but to be better equipped to shape their future. So let's look at what is the Oxford International Curriculum, shall we? Essentially, the Oxford International Curriculum is an integrated educational product and service solution, and it's comprised of 4 parts, as you can see in this triangle. Number 1, at its heart, in the center, is the curriculum itself, and we'll talk about that in the next few slides. Second part of this triangle, pointing upwards, is resources. We have here print or digital, and these make the curriculum come to life for your teachers and your learners every day in the classroom. Third, we have assessment. We have both ongoing assessment as well as year-end assessment, formative or summative as it's called. And the fourth part of this curriculum offer is high-value professional development. It's a blended face-to-face plus digital approach. These 4 elements are 100% interconnected, they're integrated, and that's what makes up the Oxford International Curriculum. But let's dig into this more deeply and look at the heart of it, the curriculum, shall we? OUP understands the importance of continuity and progression. We're creating one all-through curriculum, as you can see on the left side of the slide here, starting at international early years, moving upwards into international primary, continuing up into international lower secondary, and then moving into international GCSEs, AS, and A levels brought to you from Oxford AQA. So what you have here is one all-through progression with steady preparation brought to you from Oxford University Press. The curriculum spans 6 core foundational subjects that are essential to all learning, be that academic as well as your lifelong learning. The 6 subjects we are focusing on: English, obviously, with literacy, computing, the world and digital literacy. I mean, we are all here today with digital, and digital is becoming far more important than ever. Mathematics and numeracy, well-being, science, and global skills projects. These are the 6 foundational subjects, and they are all brought together with one approach. And what ties them together? Let's take a look at the next slide, where we talk about our approach to learning and teaching. This is based on what we call the joy of learning. We're putting joy into teaching and learning by fostering well-being and developing global skills and project-based learning into all subjects. This is an approach that is based on the science of positive education. This was founded by Dr. Martin Seligman and Dr. Alejandro Adler's research into well-being, proving that having well-being programs increases academic performance. By nurturing creativity and fostering well-being, the Oxford International Curriculum plans to boost academic performance and progress and put joy in teaching and learning. But our main aim here is to help your students shape their futures. But you may ask, well, how does this work? Yeah, practically speaking. I like to think of this as a funnel effect. So looking at the right side of your slide here, you see we have curriculum. This is at its widest. Yeah, so you have learning objectives. This gets narrowed down into schemes of work. We're familiar with this, which is timetabling based on weeks and terms. Those timetabling schemes of work are then further detailed into lesson plans. Each subject has a lesson plan, each one covering the core subject knowledge, but also having well-being and global skills development. This system then recommends and points to the best resources for use. All combined, this approach delivers from its aims to your learners' new attitudes. So let's take a look at the curriculum, shall we? Here's an example, a sample of a science curriculum. What you'll see is that it has 9 years. So we have year 1 up to year 9. So this is key stage 1 to key stage 3, 9 years of study, primary up to lower secondary. Early years will come online the following year. This is based on the English National Curriculum, and it shows you a compact year-on-year progression or a pathway. It's based on a spiral approach where the domains or the sub-themes down the left, the first column on the left side, are revisited annually and expanded upon. Now let's look how this connects into the next part of the funnel, which was the next slide, where we have schemes of work. You're very familiar with schemes of work, and I'm sure you know about these. But what you get here is essentially you've got weeks, you have terms, you have the objectives from the curriculum. Then there's different views for different schemes of work, whether you have it for 1 year or for by subject by year. Then these timetables or schemes of work then point us to our next slide, which is what we have. This is an example or a sample of a lesson plan. This one happens to be from science, and you can see it's very clear where you have the curriculum objectives set at the top, the context, what equipment, materials, resources, pre-teaching vocabulary needs, key points, aspects of joy of learning, the main activities. Obviously, very clear, very detailed procedural notes on your lesson plans. So let's talk about this now and summarize. Sorry, before we do that, I just wanted to say the resources that we have recommended are set about in your lesson plans. And here's a slide where you see there are various resources that we have chosen that help to bring the Oxford International Curriculum to life in your classroom. Okay, so in summary, the Oxford International Curriculum is putting well-being at the heart of teaching and learning. We're developing global skills through the core subjects. We're supporting the English National Curriculum as a basis. We're ensuring that we have curriculum coherence, continuity, and consistency. We're providing steady progression and sound preparation. And we are guaranteeing fairness in our assessment for the English as additional language learners. But many of you are probably keen to know a bit more about how the curriculum integrates the subjects of well-being and global skills. To speak to this, Sylvia Yafai, our curriculum academic lead, is going to take you through the next aspect of today's webinar. I want to thank you personally for listening, for taking the time during these difficult issues around the world with the C-19. And I look forward to speaking to you all individually after this webinar. Now, over to Sylvia. Thank you, and bye.
Hello, everyone. And again, thank you all for joining us today. As Matt mentioned, well-being and global skills projects are at the heart of the Oxford International Curriculum. They are standalone subjects that can be taught either weekly or intensively, and key elements are also interwoven across the 4 core subjects. So it's an integrated approach with a focus on developing physical and mental well-being throughout the educational experience of each student, as well as important skills and competencies such as critical and creative thinking, for example. So to give you an idea of how this works, the core subject lessons might include, for example, stretch zone challenges or opportunities for active learning or mindful moments, which are core part of the well-being curriculum. Through the project-based approach to teaching and learning that the curriculum promotes, students will also have the opportunity to develop essential skills for future work and academic success. For example, creative problem solving and research skills. What I would mention, I see a question has come in from Adam. Thank you very much, Adam, for your question about lesson plans, since we were looking at those. These lesson plans are included for all subjects in all lessons. So you wouldn't need to reproduce those elsewhere. You would be able to adapt them if you need to. But yes, there will be lesson plans for every subject and every lesson. So moving on to assessment. When it comes to assessment, the Oxford International Curriculum includes a combination of formative and summative assessment. This includes baseline tests for English, maths, and science in year 7, as well as access to formative assessment tools that teachers will have access to throughout the academic year, and competency-based assessment for global skills projects. So that's a sort of more skills-focused type of assessment. There are also year-end achievement tests, and a high-stakes standardized test will be available for Year 9 students as an optional addition to the curriculum. I should also mention here that the curriculum and assessment framework is designed to ensure that progression to the International Independent Project Qualification, International GCSEs, AS and A levels. I see as well that Adam has asked a question regarding that progression, and in particular the subjects offered at that level. So we'll be speaking to our sister organization, Oxford AQA, and come back to you on that. Both the OIC, the Oxford International Curriculum, and Oxford AQA are growing and developing and working with schools. So we'll come back to you on that question. Okay, moving on to professional development. So as well as the curriculum and assessment and teaching and learning resources, the final core element of the Oxford International Curriculum is a comprehensive professional learning and development program. It's designed for international schools, and it takes a blended, flipped classroom approach. So it includes both digital and face-to-face training. That's delivered by some of our curriculum authors as well as expert trainers, and we'll work with you to assess your specific training needs and priorities. The plan for the pilot phase is to deliver face-to-face training on up to 3 occasions throughout the year, at the start of the academic year and then twice throughout the year. Of course, we're monitoring the current situation that we're all facing globally. We know these are challenging times, and we hope that we'll soon all be back in school and work in our offices and able to deliver that face-to-face training. Of course, we'll be working with you to adapt to a more digital approach if we need to, depending on your situation. I see a few more questions coming in, and we'll address those very soon when we come to the Q&A. Just to follow on with the implementation training, to give you an overview of the type of training that will be offered in the first year. We have an introduction to the Oxford International Curriculum framework for all of the teachers that are involved in delivering it, and approaches to teaching and learning, along with specific training on assessment, well-being, and global skills development. We also offer thought leadership training for school leaders on relevant topics. So that can be from change management in the first pilot year to in year 2 or year 3, for example, gathering evidence of impact. I'll hand over now to Hannah Ball, who will take you through the process of becoming an Oxford International Curriculum pilot school, and come back to some of the questions that have been you've been adding to the chat box. Please keep those coming, and over to Hannah.
Hi there everyone, my name's Hannah Ball and I'm the International Marketing Manager on this project. I'm going to briefly go over some of the elements of the pilot programme. So we'll be piloting the curriculum this academic year from September all the way through to June 2021. And pilots can choose to either pilot the curriculum in Year 1 of Key Stage 1 or Year 7 of Key Stage 3. Alternatively, they can pilot both primary and lower secondary programmes in Year 1 and Year 7. By partnering with Oxford University Press as a pilot school, we'll be sharing our mission as part of the University of Oxford to promote excellence in learning and teaching worldwide. Working closely together with us, you'll be helping to lead the way in innovation in education. And your experience and feedback will be hugely valuable in helping us to develop the curriculum. So why become a pilot school for the Oxford International Curriculum? What's in it for you? Well, firstly, your school will receive all of the relevant curriculum documents, including the frameworks, schemes of work, lesson plans. You'll also receive the assessment tools and the recommended resources to use alongside the curriculum. Our academic lead, Sylvia, will work closely with you pre-pilot to ensure you have all of the resources you need to make the pilot a success and so that your students get the most benefit. Secondly, professional development. The curriculum offers a practical and effective continuous professional development programme designed specifically for the needs of international schools. We'll be offering this to you complimentary so that you and your teachers can successfully implement the curriculum And again, Sylvia will work with you to tailor this training to the needs of your school. And we'll be delivering a welcome pack to you, and this will include, amongst other resources, a pilot school plaque. Every pilot school will receive a plaque which they can hang up in their reception area or at the front of their school for the duration of the pilot to let parents, teachers and the community know about this collaboration. And we'll also be sending resources to support parents. We understand that parents are a key stakeholder in their child's education, so being able to help them understand the benefits of this new approach to teaching and learning will support this journey for your school and for your students. And you'll be joining an exclusive group of pilot schools. We're looking to run the pilot program with a select group of schools, and we'll be carefully handpicking them to help us shape the curriculum. And what's our promise to you? Well, it's ongoing support. We want to guide you and assist you on this journey so that you and your students can find the joy in learning. So what type of schools are we hoping to pilot with? Well, we're looking for schools who follow an EMI approach to their teaching. This is teaching core subjects through the medium of English. And we are open to working with a select group of bilingual schools as well, and we can work with you to discuss any specific needs there. As was mentioned before, the curriculum is aligned to the English National Curriculum, so we'd recommend that schools who want to become a pilot school have some familiarity with the English National Curriculum. That would help. And we hope to collaborate with schools who share the same values as us. Our mission at Oxford University Press is to further excellence in education. So through working with our pilot schools, we hope to help shape the future in learning and lead the way in innovation in education. And on that note, we would ask pilot schools to work closely with us throughout the pilot to feed back on the curriculum and feedback on their experience of participating in the curriculum by helping us to carry out research projects and informing what the curriculum looks like for the better. So let's take a quick look at the service schedule from now until the end of the pilot. This lays out our service to you through the pilot programme. When school signs up, they will receive a welcome pack with the pilot school plaque that I mentioned. And this pack also includes some orientation information and curriculum overview documents. In June, we'll deliver another pack. This is the pilot school pack. This will include all of your resources and all of the relevant curriculum documents and assessment frameworks, so you can start planning for the coming term. And in July, you'll receive access to the online teaching and learning resources. Between August this year and February of next year, we'll be delivering the implementation training and thought leadership training. And Sylvia will liaise with you on the best dates to suit your school for those trainings. And on a monthly basis, we'll be checking in with you to make sure everything is running smoothly. This will be your opportunity to let us know if there's anything else you might possibly need from us. And at the end of the pilot in July 2021, you'll receive a pilot school certificate from us to thank you for your participation in this project. And here is the feedback schedule. Your feedback will be so important to help us shape the curriculum content, so we hope to work closely with you at different phases of the pilot to hear your thoughts. We'll carry out focus group research from November this year to January 2021, and Sylvia will carry out termly reviews with you at the end of terms 1, 2 and 3, just to check in, see how things are going. We would also like you to take part in an impact study in February 2021. Thanks for that, and I'm going to hand back to Sylvia now.
Thanks, Hannah. I would also just add that the service schedule that you just saw can be modified based on the school requirements. So if your academic year begins in August or September, for example, we can make those adjustments. So as well as sharing a little bit of information with you about the Oxford International Curriculum, today is also an opportunity to answer some of these questions that you may have. Thank you all for the questions that you've been submitting so far. So for this part of the webinar, we'll start out by looking at a few questions that we've been receiving from schools in advance around the world, and also endeavor to answer some of the questions that you've been adding to the chat box. So do keep those coming. So the first question here relates to the delivery of the 6 subjects, and I see some of the questions are around flexibility as well. This table just gives you an idea of how the program is structured. So assuming 36 teaching weeks, we would have 5 lessons per week in maths and English, 2 for science at primary level, 3 to 4 for lower secondary, and 1 weekly lesson each for computing, well-being, and global skills projects. There is flexibility as well in terms of the delivery of well-being and global skills projects. So those could be a weekly lesson or also done intensively. And as mentioned, these principles of well-being and global skills that are the heart of the curriculum will be embedded across the core subjects. So another question that we've received from prospective pilot schools relates to assessment and qualifications. We discussed the types of assessment offered as part of the Oxford International Curriculum. I'd also like to mention that the curriculum has been designed to ensure that progression to Oxford International AQA examinations, our sister organization, including international GCSEs, AS, and A levels. To give you an example there, the formative competency-based assessment included in global skills projects will also prepare students for the International Independent Project Qualification, or the IPQ, offered by Oxford AQA. I'd encourage you to have a look at the Oxford AQA website. There you'll find further information on the types of assessment, the subjects that are currently offered, and as I mentioned, we'll get back to you soon on further developments in the coming years and when we can expect different subjects to be added there. Okay, so the next question we have here is it compulsory to use Oxford International Curriculum approved course books, or can we use our own resources to guide students through the program? So as Matt Davidson mentioned earlier, for the pilot phase, we will be providing those resources, classroom sets to each pilot school that are the resources that we recommend to deliver the program. However, the curriculum is designed to be resource agnostic, so you are welcome to use your own resources if you have resources that you prefer to use. All of the resources that we've selected are EAL attentive. They follow an international approach. I can see that Jason is also asking about making content more relevant to the specific student population, and that's really important. The resources we chose are sort of following that international approach. There is flexibility, as I mentioned, within the curriculum, and also being able to adapt that. So within the lesson plans, choosing the resource or the examples, the case studies that you'd want to share with students. The Oxford International Curriculum allows for that flexibility. If I may just, on this point as well, so check the questions. I'll mention here the third point, which is English as a second language. In some cases, I know some of you have asked about having a bilingual school, for example, or students that may not have that level of English in the pilot phase. We will be offering an ESL option in the full implementation of the Oxford International Curriculum. For the pilot phase, the English subject is designed for students with English as a first language or with a high proficiency of English. So you are also welcome to use your own resources, for example, ESL, in the pilot year to guide students through the program. Okay, so here we have another couple of questions. Another school asked us, our teachers don't have that experience in inquiry-based or project-based teaching and learning. Can we still implement the program? So the short answer to that question is yes. We'll be providing training in inquiry-based and project-based learning approaches as part of our professional development program. We'll be working closely with each of the pilot schools to identify training needs and priorities. And that leads us to the next question, which relates to the number of CPD hours that will be provided for teachers. And I'll come back to Lisa's question on accessibility as well. So we'll be working with pilot schools to develop a bespoke professional development plan. The total number of hours will vary based on the school's needs, but it's likely to include around 10 to 15 hours of online training. And if conditions allow, 15 hours or so of face-to-face training over the course of the academic year. That face-to-face training, if we're not able to do it in that way, we can look at digital options to support that. I'm going to turn here to Lisa's question. Let me see if I can find it. So, will digital material be available for the flipped classroom approach? Will the content be delivered before classroom activities? That's absolutely right. So we intend to have the digital content available well in advance of the start of the academic year. From June or July, when you have access to the digital platform, teachers will have access to the digital PD content, which they'll be able to take and review before the start of the academic year. Okay, I'll take one more question here from the original questions we'd received. Are there any special staff and system requirements for pilot schools? So we mentioned the access to the online platform to download digital teaching and learning, as well as accessing online professional development content. So it's important to have that access. Luke has asked, can the digital content be accessed and used offline in the classroom? So the as part of what we'll be delivering to you, you'll have hard copy resources, the course books for the students, and downloadable resources on the online platform. So those will be accessible. The PD online content will need to be accessed online. We'd also recommend that pilot schools identify members of staff that can take on the roles of global skills projects coordinator and a well-being coordinator, just to support the program delivery, especially as it's embedded across the core subjects as well. So to work with the core subject teachers and make sure that this is a school-wide implementation. And the Oxford International Curriculum supports the ENC, the English National Curriculum, and all subjects are delivered in English. So we would recommend that teachers have some familiarity with the ANC and have a CFR level of B2 plus or above to be able to deliver those. There's a question, Lisa, thank you for that. How can other subject teachers be involved? So non-English speakers. And to deliver the program for the Oxford International Curriculum, we would recommend that sort of level of English. However, if it's a case of a bilingual school, for example, or other subject teachers, we will be providing further information on the Oxford International Curriculum, an animated presentation that can be shown within the school. And so the idea, hopefully, is to really involve this, all of the teachers in a whole school approach. There is a question about providing materials in Chinese language. Unfortunately, for the pilot phase, all of the resources would be provided in English, but we are really happy to work with each school and assess individual needs and see how we can support, including with possibly different languages for parent resources, for example, because it's important to involve the parents as well. Okay, so this is a question of what will happen after the pilot program. So the full Oxford International Curriculum will be launched in 2021. Following the pilot phase, as well as the full primary and lower secondary curriculum, we will also cover early years and an additional ESL option for English. That's for both primary and lower secondary. Pilot schools will also have access to the next stage in professional development, which includes consolidation training for teachers and school leaders. And following the pilot phase, the schools will be able to subscribe to the full Oxford International Curriculum. There will be a range of pricing options available depending on the particular needs of the school, and we can work with you to discuss any individual requirements there. Let's take a look at some of the questions that you've been adding into the chat box. So we looked at Lisa's question on how other subject teachers can be involved. Let me check a question on assessment. I'm going to hand this question over to Matt Davidson, and the question is from Jason. So how are year-end achievement tests benchmarked? Matt, over to you.
Right. Thank you very much for that question, Jason. The year-end achievement tests are based on the Oxford International Curriculum learning objectives themselves, which are derived off of the English National Curriculum. There is flexibility, so we cover the English National Curriculum per subject at least up to 80%, so there's extra flexibility there. In terms of the year-end achievement tests, these are not standardized apart from the Year 9 one. So in terms of controlled sampling and doing extensive testing of the reliability, validity, and comparability of that would be a standardized test at Year 9. So that would be considered a high stakes summative exam for Year 9. But for Year 8, 7, and 6, those are year-end achievement tests, which we will be refreshing year on year. They would be scored and marked internally by your school, as opposed to the standardized test, which would be securely marked externally. And the benchmarking then again goes back to the English National Curriculum. I hope that answers your question. Okay, further to Jason's question regarding the UK National Curriculum. How far is the mapping done? Does the OIC, I think I cover some parts of the UK following an indicative mapping, or is the whole UK NC comprehensive? I kind of touched on that earlier, saying that we ensure coverage at 80% or more, but there's also aspects of the UK or the English National Curriculum, for example, sex education, religious instruction. There's going to be personal, social, health education. Some of those subjects we, like for example, PSHE, we cover that through our well-being curriculum and our global skills projects curriculum. So you could be ensured that that is covered. But there are other elements to the English National Curriculum that are not covered, particular strands. So we're focusing on the core foundational gateway subjects. Okay, so there's a question here from Haley. I can answer this question, but Sylvia is the academic curriculum lead, and her role is to work hand in hand with schools in the onboarding process. So it might be best if Sylvia, you speak to this question and address what Haley's concern or yeah.
Hello, thank you very much for that question. So based in North Cyprus, the question about becoming a centre, no, that's not necessary for the Oxford International Curriculum. At this stage, we're looking to handpick a select group of schools that can work with us to develop the curriculum. So it wouldn't be necessary to take another step and become a centre. We would just be working together with the process that Hannah mentioned to deliver the resources to you and then work together to develop that over the course of the year. I can follow on there to Luke's question about what happens after the pilot year. Can we keep the pilot status until all years have been introduced? So the pilot program is just for the next academic year. You would receive the plaque, for example, and the recognition as an Oxford International Curriculum pilot school for the academic year for either year 1 or year 7 or both, depending on what your school is piloting. Following that, you would become we'd have a review and see if you'd like to continue as a full Oxford International Curriculum school, in which case there would be a new recognition and plaque that you'd be receiving for that too. So the pilot status is for that first year. Thank you, Jason. Regarding the English scheme of work, and does it incorporate a phonics program? So yes, it does incorporate a phonics program. Some schools already have phonics programs that they are very happy with, and you're welcome to continue with those. We are providing Floppy's Phonics as a resource that schools can use for the pilot program. But again, if you're using another phonics program that you're happy with, you're welcome to keep that. Thank you for this question about ESL. We spoke about that briefly earlier, but just to mention that following the pilot phase, there will be a separate ESL track for both primary and lower secondary. And the full launch will also include early years or pre-primary. Okay. Adam, thank you for that question. So for schools who don't have familiarity with the English National Curriculum, could we provide training and resources to introduce teachers? So our training that we'd provide to the schools would be on the approaches that we use to teaching and learning. And as we mentioned, we would work with the schools to assess specific needs. So if that's a gap, for example, we could certainly work with the schools to develop that. Others that may be very familiar with it, we would tailor the PD program accordingly. So yes, we're very happy to work with schools and look at where the needs are. Okay, thank you for the question on parent resources. Yes, please prioritize. Noted. Thank you. We are preparing some parent resources. First of all, a letter that you can share with the parents to introduce your status as a pilot school. And also tell them a little bit about the Oxford International Curriculum. We're very keen to engage parents in the process, and we'll be providing some well-being resources so that parents and students can extend that learning and extend those well-being principles outside of the classroom as well. We will be in touch very soon about that. Once we have formalized the sort of pilot status of schools, we can immediately send the initial resources. Thank you very much for this question regarding implementing the program with the whole school. Is it possible to do it with a small group of students? The answer is yes, it's possible. If you have one or two sections, for example, where you'd like to pilot the Oxford International Curriculum, that's absolutely fine. We have some bilingual schools, for example, that have certain sections where the level of English is at a level where they're able to implement the program. And in the pilot phase, that might be what works best for your school. So yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jason, for the question on high achieving students. That's a very good question. In the lesson plans that you'll be receiving, there will always be an area for extension and further challenge, stretch zone challenges for students. I would also say in the Global Skills Projects curriculum, it's a competency-based approach, and we'd be looking to really challenge students to develop their skills and look at those areas that they're particularly interested in and develop skills through those. So we hope that it'll be, offer that challenge to those high achieving students and also the support to those that may need additional support. Okay, thank you for this question on looking at doing the program from the first year and early years or pre-primary doing a different program when they continue. So that's a really very good question. When we look to pilot and partner with you, we would look at that progression from the early years to primary. In phonics, for example, if you're already using a program in early years, Read, Write, Inc., for example, you're very welcome to continue that process through the pilot. So I think that's a case of looking at each individual school and how we can ensure that seamless progression there.
Can I speak to that question very briefly as well? Am I being heard? I think so, right? Muhey, thank you very much for that question. Whilst we do the pilot, so from September of this year, we are now starting to develop the kindergarten or pre-primary part of the Oxford International Curriculum. And we're working with experts here in the UK. We're looking at the early years, the EYFS, and its reformed version. And we are constructing what would be the best preparation to lead into year one of the primary Oxford International Curriculum. So we're starting to develop it now, and during the pilot, we would be asking for support from schools to get a better understanding of your needs to make a seamless progression from 2 years of pre-primary into 1 year of primary. So that would be something that we would love to partner with schools where you have a K through 12 solution or K through 12 learning journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. This question came in from Adam. I wondered if you could expand a little bit on that when you were discussing the ENC.
Just check my mic is live. Right. With regard to, say, science or math, 100% of the ENC is covered. That is, yes, it is. That's the short answer. The English National Curriculum is set up in stages, and in some cases there's less detail. So when we went about creating a bit more of a compact, accessible, step-by-step curriculum, we had to ensure that the bigger learning aims of the English National Curriculum by stage were met, but it's spread out across year on year on year. But rest assured, from an assurance point of view, all of the learning aims and the learning goals in the English National Curriculum for maths and science are achieved through teaching the Oxford International Curriculum.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I see one more question here. With regards to the level of English for students. So if students are not able to communicate in English in grade 1, it may be difficult to follow the Oxford International Curriculum. However, if depending on the level of the students, you may choose, for example, to give extra English support in years 1 and 2, and then deliver science and maths, for example, in a different way. Possibly in their own language in the case of a bilingual school initially, and then move to doing those in English. So again, we can work together with you to map those out and look at the particular needs of your school and also see what's possible there. And I'm going to add the final question here. Do we have to adopt all 6 subjects? We're ideally looking to work with schools who will be implementing the curriculum in full in the pilot phase, but there is flexibility there. If you have a requirement to deliver some of the subjects in another language, for example, or different requirements that you have for your school, we're very open to be flexible there and look at what works best for you. I think we've addressed most of the questions here. Oh, I see one more coming in. Can they learn similar content in their native language or national curriculum? So yes, this is what we were saying before. We can look at that. We would have to do a mapping and make sure that the outcomes are covered. But for example, if you have a national curriculum for science or maths and would like to use that alongside the English national curriculum or introduce that a little bit later, we can work with you on that. So that's absolutely fine. Okay, I'll hand over to Matt Ward now to look at the next steps. Thank you all for the questions you've sent. Please do keep them coming. Send us an email if there's anything further, anything we've missed today, any further information. And Adam, I'll be getting back to you again today as well on your question. We will get back to you individually to answer any other questions that we haven't talked about today. And thank you all very much. And over to Matt.
Thanks, Sylvia and Matt, and to everybody for your questions. So by now, we hope in the short space of time that we've had, you've had a chance to learn a little more about the Oxford International Curriculum and the pilot project. And we hope that's been a good opportunity to have some of your queries answered. So let's take a look at next steps. And it's worth saying we're here to help you and your staff at every step along the way. So the vast majority of schools attending this webinar will have already submitted the expression of interest form. If you haven't already done so, this will be the first step for you and we can guide you here. There is a brief selection process which will be undertaken by the team at Oxford. Upon completion of that, we will offer you the pilot programme agreement, which sets out our mutual responsibilities. We're aware every pilot has different needs, and we're keen to ensure that the resources you use and the training you receive are well tailored to your own personal requirements. So our team will be in touch to discuss your resource needs, which would be couriered to you without charge, as well as lay out a schedule for professional development to ensure your staff are confident right from the get-go. You'll receive an initial marketing welcome pack, which will include tools to help message and promote the initiative to your parents. Over summer, you'll also receive in the mail a pilot pack and materials to prepare properly for the commencement of the pilot from September. So we hope this has been an insightful session and has given a flavour of the Oxford International Curriculum and the pilot project we have underway. Our pilot schools have a crucial part to play in the birth of a truly international curriculum offer. It's a chance to make a significant difference and help to inform and shape the Oxford International Curriculum going forward, ensuring it serves the needs of students and their well-being globally. It's also a chance to receive dedicated support from our team of experts to help develop your staff and enhance them as confident educators. So following this webinar, one of the team will be in touch with you to discuss your thoughts and your position on the pilot, respond to any further questions you will have, and outline next steps for your team. We'll always be happy to discuss any aspects of the project in greater depth, so do let us know. So thank you to everybody for your time, and we look forward to you joining us on this journey. From the whole team here, wishing you a happy and safe end to your week, and hopefully a speedy return to normality wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much, and we look forward to speaking soon. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Matt. May I just add a couple of questions that have come in at the end? We do have samples that we can provide to you, subject overviews. So please do get in touch with us and we can send those over to you. So thank you all so much.